Hey everyone, Steve Steinberg here of Arrow in Flight. Thanks for joining me again for another installment of a look at the week ahead in Astro events. This is where we like to take a look at what's going on up there so you can make your best decisions down here. So it's big week, 4th of July here in the United States where I am recording this broadcast. So let's take a look at what might be coming down the pike. So on the 4th of July, we have a fairly big, fairly quick, but fairly big aspect. Mercury, the planet of communication, is making a square relationship with the planet Uranus, planet of rebellion and revolution. So the square is kind of a troublesome aspect sometimes. Doesn't have to be, but that could be the tendency. So here we might see an urge to be an original thinker, which is good, but at the expense of kind of the greater sense of peace in any communication we get involved in. So you might find yourself or the people around you adopting sort of contrarian tendencies, discounting anything that you didn't come up with yourself simply because you didn't come up with it yourself. We might find an urge toward being too original, dismissing anything that isn't obviously genius level thought or blazingly original. Let me give you an example. Back in 1939, a man by the name of Ernest Vincent Wright created a book called Gadsby, not Gatsby, not the F. Scott Fitzgerald novel, The Great Gatsby. This is an older and far lesser known book called Gadsby, and it's remarkable for the fact that Mr. Wright was able to write a 50,000 word book novel without using the letter E. So think about that. A staggering kind of achievement, but a really weird one, and he was unable to find a publisher for it in his lifetime. He ended up publishing it himself, and to this day, it's a very fringe kind of novelty work that almost no one knows about unless you're really into that sort of odd writing. And then there's also the question of, after his years spent writing it and not finding a publisher, is it even any good? That's a whole other question. I haven't read it, I can't say either way. You might read it and drop me a line and let me know what you think. Maybe someday I'll read it, but try to even write a page without the letter E and see how long it takes you. So these are the kind of urges we might feel this week because of this square relationship. But before you get too deep into them, just think, is it going to be worth the investment? Because quite often these things, once in a while you get the lightning in a bottle effect, but sometimes not. The square is a really powerful relationship though, and there might be some great things that come of it. You might find yourself able to come up with some really innovative problem solving maneuvers during the week. So I'm not saying turn off your brain and just hide indoors. It's probably okay to use your gray matter. Just don't get too deep into trying to be crazily original. It might not be the week for that. So on the 5th, the day after Independence Day here in the States, the sun is making a couple of moves that'll be really interesting. At the same time, just about, it's making what we call a trine relationship with Neptune and a square, another square, with Jupiter. So how does that play out? Neptune is the planet of mysticism and spirituality, which, personal favorite of mine, it's great. And the sun is making a trine. You might be really able to access your spirituality, your sense of the mystical. You might really be able to make some strides in furthering your relationship with what you consider divine, higher power, the greater consciousness up there, the universal consciousness, all of which is good. But there's this square with Jupiter. We've talked here in the last few weeks about Jupiter, how it tends to, as the Simpsons say, embiggen things. It makes everything big. It makes things grow and expand. So the dark side of Neptune is tendency toward things like escapism, addiction, a scattered, diffuse kind of thought, inability to really focus on things. People with a strong Neptune signature can sometimes come off as the classic space cadet. So this could be a really fantastic week for accessing your mystical side. Just be aware that you might also have a bit of a slippery slope into getting lost in your mystical side in ways that are not super helpful for you. So explore that kind of realm. Definitely, it'd probably be well worth your while and yield a lot of benefits, but just be careful to not go too far so that you can't find your way back. I think you'll be okay, but just watch out for the escapist tendencies, especially if you're already prone to that sort of thing. This won't be the week to feed those tendencies. So later in the week, the close of the week that we're looking at will be the 9th, next Sunday, 1 week from today. We have a full moon in Capricorn. Full moons are always a big, great event. Great time to shine a light, as it were, on the things that you want to bring to fruition in the next lunar cycle. Capricorn has a strong association with the business world, among other things, and money and possessions, material wealth and material achievement, measurable results and goals, that kind of thing. So this could be a really great week to look at what is going right for you in the realm of money or your career Also things like your body, your family, other physical attributes of your life. But really, I would say, sometimes people think of Capricorn as the CEO of the zodiac. You hear it nicknamed that sometimes. So it could be a really great moon for not beating yourself up over the things you don't have in the financial or career spheres of your life, but kind of giving yourself credit and shining a light and some encouragement on the things that are going well, that you want to continue to go well in your life, that you want to feed and cultivate. Perfect time for that. Same day, we close out the third week in a row with kind of, I hate to use the word ominous here, but a little bit semi-ominous aspect. We're looking at the sun making an opposition with Pluto. Today, which is Sunday as I'm recording this, we looked at today last week where Mars is making an opposition with Pluto. And oppositions can be not user-friendly. They can have some difficult fallout when they come about. So there was another mass shooting in Arkansas in this country within the last year, over this weekend. And that's arguably a possible result, kind of manifestation of Mars opposite Pluto type of energy. So hopefully that's the last we'll see of it. But now that we look ahead at the week ahead, so the sun opposite Pluto, less violent symbolism than Mars, that's for sure. Mars is named after the god of war. So what we could be looking at here is more a sense of our own identities. The sun is the core of ourselves, just like the real sun is the core of the solar system. We could be looking at our identities coming into kind of an adversarial relationship with buried things in our psyche. That's Plutonian kind of work, kind of Plutonian symbolism. So imagine hidden things coming to light in the light of the sun in ways that we don't want, that we don't choose, coming up at inopportune moments, at times that are not of our choosing and don't make us happy. So maybe you might actually do really well in bringing up hidden things you haven't been able to access before, especially if you're in some sort of therapeutic type of program where you're really doing shadow work and digging into your darker neighborhoods of your subconscious. But just be on guard against dark material coming to light, not just your own, other people's as well. It could be very revealing kind of period, but maybe not super pleasant, and try to maybe be a little more forgiving than usual and understand that not everyone is trying to bring this dark stuff forth. We all have darkness in us. It's what we choose to do with it that we have some control over. So maybe don't blame people for having it in the first place. Hope that they do well with how they deal with it this week, and just know that it might be a little bit trickier than usual to deal with it this week. And then in summary, without getting into every little, aspect involved here, the planetoid Chiron that we've talked about for the last couple of weeks is making some favorable relationships all week, notably with Mercury and Venus. So Chiron has to do with our relationship around being wounded in a spiritual, psychic sort of sense, and healing from wounds. So communication around wounds will be indicated this week. That'll be really a great process, sharing some of your wounds and pain. We had some of this 2 weeks ago. I believe one of our aspects was a Mercury Chiron favorable aspect. So giving name to your ills might be good. Sharing some of your experiences around woundedness, or just listening to someone else's. All this could be healing for everyone involved. And Venus adds some relationship energy to the mix. So your relationships could be sources of healing, and you could be able to pour healing out into your relationships and the people with whom you have those relationships. And actually, Mercury and Venus are both pretty busy this week in general, even outside of their Chiron aspects that they're making. So you may, even without trying, find that you're putting a lot of energy into the communication processes in your life and into your relationships. So this could be a really great time to just surf those waves. Try to figure out what do you want out of your communication, reading, writing, speaking, learning, teaching, and what do you want out of your relationships? Are they where you want them to be? And maybe combine the two. If you're not a great communicator, it might be a good week to kind of venture outside of your shell a little bit and see what you can do in that realm. If you are a great communicator, really step it up maybe and make some contact with the people that matter to you, and see if you can kind of clear the air about things that have been bothering you, or maybe even just give voice to the things that are really working for you, that you appreciate about the relationship and about the person with whom you're having it. So excellent week for relationships and communication. So that's the roundup for this week, everyone. I hope it was helpful. I hope that my country folk here in the United States have a terrific Independence Day celebration, and I will look for you same time next week for more of what's up there and how can we put that to good use down here. Oh, and I definitely will be interested in helping any of you out there tailor some of what I'm talking about here to an interpretation specifically keyed into your own birth chart. Our birth charts are unique. Not all aspects will hit everyone the same way. They will not hit everyone the same way. So contact me at the information you find below the screen and set up an appointment if you like. I'd be happy to help you figure out better how to optimize all of the above stuff to make things work down here. Thanks everyone. See you next week.